This is a Ben Frank Connection presentation.
What is going on, everybody? We are back for another episode of ABJ Presents Tornado Tag, episode 122. We are reviewing the original showcase of the Immortals, the grandest stage of them all, Wrestlemania. Myself, ABJ, alongside my buddy BP Burke, here on this journey over at Tornado Tag. Before we get into any of that, we do have some housekeeping we want to talk about. Huge thank you to all the support. The podcast was ranked again this week and last week in the top 250 on Apple Podcast and all your podcasting charts. And that is a huge help
to
Tornado Tag.
In Thailand too. Still killing it in
Thailand.
We're
number 11 in Thailand now, not Taiwan. But you guys watching
Taiwan,
on
right?
YouTube. Taiwan, yes. You guys watching on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and YouTube and Facebook have been amazing. Really bringing this Tornado Tag back and restructuring it, getting a lot of great feedback from you, from all of you. So I really, really thank you and couldn't thank you enough for that. We got some housekeeping. So if you want to go check out our first ever horror episode, myself and Courtney Smith talk about some Terrifier on Not Cool in High School Horror making its debut. On Tuesday, I'll be live again with another horror episode with our buddy Charles Moran, huge pro wrestling fan, as well as a huge horror movie guy. We're going to talk Evil Dead Rises and a little bit about his business, Horror Prints, and how you can support him. And then our last interview of the month, Dante Elizabeth James, huge social media influencer, super entertaining over on TikTok, over 600,000 subscribers, killing it over there. Cannot wait to talk to James on Thursday. And then we'll be wrapping up the month with the history of Dusty Rhodes right here back on Tornado Tag Podcast. New merchandise is available right now. If you want to grab that WrestleMania merch, it's available on TeePublic and Teespring. That logo will go away the week after WrestleMania. So this is a limited run. It might pop back up here and there, maybe for a special appearance, but this will be a limited run till next week. So get it while you can. All the logos
pop back up when I finally bring you over to the dark side. That's what's going to pop back up.
Listen, if Washington keeps playing these games, I might just become an Eagles fan at this point. But yeah, so definitely go check out those logos. All of the logos have been taken off the merch pages, and the only ones that are available are the ABJ podcast, and then the shows, Not Cool High School, Tornado Tag, 5 Questions with ABJ. All that merchandise will never go away because they're the main staple shows, but all those bonus content ones, they will pop in and out throughout the week or throughout a month or two, and then they'll be limited runs. So maybe entice more people like, oh, this shirt will go away soon, so get it while I can.
Limited,
pretty much all
edition. Yep, limited edition.
Limited editions. Anything you want to plug, BP, before we get started?
Yeah, I got a fairly busy week this week. Between now and the Dusty episode on Thursday, I will be at Pilgaroo Brewing hosting WrestleMania trivia in Pottsville. So if you're local, stop by. You might be able to win because I'm not playing, I'm hosting. And I wrote the questions. So then I have a few other things going on, wrestling wise. PPW, of course. PPW Super Show 4 is going to be April 20th. I'll bring it up like every week. And then the YouTube page, PPW Wrestler Entertainment on YouTube. Some big things coming there. So keep an eye on that as well.
Very exciting. Also coming up on the 20th, if you're in the area, if you're not going to PPW, head over to New Era Pro Wrestling, where the senior commentator Anthony Black will be holding it down for their debut show. So tickets are available now. Also,
we're on dueling shows. Ooh, rivalry.
Yeah.
No ill will
all love,
whatsoever.
All love.
The New Era
local
people.
Scene wins. Yeah.
Not at all.
So the big thing is what we want to start doing as well, and I want to extend this from New Era, but also to PPW. If anybody who's not in the area wants to buy a ticket for any of these shows, but say, hey, I live out of the state, but I still love what you guys do on the podcast, we want to extend that offer of, hey, you can buy subscriptions to the site and help us, keep the podcast lights on, or buy a t-shirt, wherever it may be. But we always put the links below for PPW and all these different things. And we will start doing so for all of these shows, putting the links for their Eventbrites and how you can buy tickets, even if you can't attend. Buy a ticket, and we're going to talk to the people at PPW, and the New Era people are already aware. Even if you put it down as ABJ podcast or something along those lines, that we could either do that as a donation to the promotion through the podcast, through our fan base, or that could be a comp ticket for someone maybe who wants to come see wrestling, that we say, hey, we have one comp ticket. It's a family of whatever. This kid gets in for free courtesy of the ABJ podcast. And this way we can support independent wrestling through this channel, and you guys can by not being able to go to the shows. And of course, we'll hook you up with links that you can watch them on YouTube or wherever they may be. But I think it's a fun way to get our audience involved and maybe support some local independent wrestling scenes in the Northeast that we can help with our voice and our possible influence,
We're power brokers. We're influence peddlers.
Dope idea though. If like, hey, I got like 6 tickets from the ABJ podcast, people buy, and then be like, oh yeah, they're cool. Comp, take them as a donation.
That's very cool. Yeah,
I think it'd be a dope thing to do for the audience. There is a little delay between me and BP tonight. I've been having internet issues most of the day, so if you hear a gap between me and BP, is because there is a delay between us. I will try my best not to walk and step all over BP. If you can't do it from another country, we could figure something out. Well, like you can, if you PayPal me, I'll buy their ticket and I'll give you the receipt or whatever you need for it. And then we can say, hey, this was comp. If you have international issues, we will find a workaround. So this week in wrestling, it's Mania's been kind of on the push from as it's been going. Really nothing glaring or insane happening over on the WB side. We're still pushing our way to Mania that's coming up. I know kind of a face off with Roman, and he said come alone, but then Roman tricked him, but Cody had his number too. A lot of the same over on the WWE side. AEW has the debut of Mercedes Moné. Kind of came out to the same promo she did the same week when she debuted, and Okada had us a couple matches, and some of the matches they've been putting together are like, holy shit, we're getting this person for this person. Like, these are some pretty fun matchups coming up over on the AEW side.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see Okada, just because Okada's big strength, and I hear this a lot about Okada. People like, well, I'm not as impressed as I thought I would be, because he doesn't really do a lot of flashy moves. He does like a drop kick. He does the Rainmaker clothesline. He's a beautiful drop kick, but he's not like a Will Ospreay. He's gonna dazzle you with these like moves you've never seen before. But what Okada does really, really well, probably better than anybody, is he can really effectively wrestle whoever he's with. He can wrestle their match, and Okada is very gifted at that. And it was really cool to see Okada come in and basically be a very traditional American style heel.
Who does Okada? Well. Who do you see shades of older, maybe an older wrestler, American wise, that you would compare to an Okada?
Not even older. I think he is almost like a Japanese version of Randy Orton, where again, nothing is.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish your thought, because we have that delay. It's my bad.
No, I was stopping for you again. Yeah, nothing
I was gonna say
is super off the page as far as what he does, but he executes so well.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot
I'm done.
A Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, where he will have the same style match where he has a little bit of flash, but not a lot. Very technical, very good, like good overall, but still very versatile and can wrestle anyone's style match. Like, I get a lot of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat vibes from Okada.
But yeah, the only thing with Steamboat, like Okada is like a wrestling chameleon, and Steamboat was like the thing Ricky Steamboat was probably more famous for than anything is he was never a heel.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. This delay is going to be a little challenging. I think what I might do is while we start the WrestleMania talk, I'm gonna try to reset, so you might pop on
Okay.
the screen by yourself, and then I'm gonna try to do that.
Yeah.
But
So go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
so
a
I'm just
little.
gonna do the quick rundown, and then we'll get this going because I am bogging down like crazy. So WrestleMania 1, it was the inaugural WrestleMania of a pro wrestling pay-per-view hosted by the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, now WWE. Took place March 31st, 1985 in Madison Square Garden, New York City. The attendance of the event was 19,121, and the event was seen by over 1 million viewers through closed circuit television, making it the largest pay-per-view showing of a wrestling event on closed circuit television in the United States at the time. It would contest 9 professional wrestling matches. The main event will be your Hulk Hogan and Mr. T versus Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper. Also, Wendy Richter will be Richter will be accompanied by Cyndi Lauper, as well as appearances by the U.S. Express, the Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, boxing champion Muhammad Ali, and baseball player / manager Billy Martin as a ring announcer. Also Liberace as a timekeeper. This was what we said. It was in the Civic Center. I'm sorry. The technical glitch, and there was a technical glitch that happened in Pennsylvania that we might get into. But trying to think if there's anything else I want to
The
cover.
Philadelphia Civic Center.
Yeah, I think something like I read some.
didn't
I
know
read
that.
too far. I didn't actually mean to read that. But commentators will be Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse Ventura, interviewer Gene Okerlund, and Lord Alfred Hayes. Ring announcer Howard Finkel and Billy Martin, and referees will be Jack Lutz, Dick Kroll, Joey Morella, Pat Patterson, and Henry Turnova. Like we said, Liberace will be a special guest timekeeper, special guest outside referee Muhammad Ali, and other special guests will be the Rockettes, all showing up here tonight.
Yeah, very New York heavy as far as the celebrity guests there, which makes sense. The event is in New York. Are you gonna duck out here? Oh, he is gonna duck out here. So one of the things that's really interesting there, not on pay-per-view. So the WrestleMania 1 was not on pay-per-view. It was a closed circuit event where you went to a movie theater, a big like a casino, a hall of some sort, anywhere we could fit a lot of people in, and you would basically buy a ticket to go watch it there. And they still did do closed circuit for a little while for like WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 3, but they would actually get pay-per-view proper a little bit later in 1985 with the Wrestling Classic. And this is really the apex of the rock and wrestling connection at WrestleMania. So WWF's surge, obviously Hulk Hogan's a huge part of it. And there's other people who are a huge part of it. But it all kind of happens. It all kind of starts with a plane ride. WrestleMania starts with a plane ride, which is
Right?
What's that?
Not that plane ride, right?
No, not the plane ride from hell. it just so happened that Cyndi Lauper was on a plane with Captain Lou Albano, and they got to talking, and then it wound up that Cyndi Lauper took a liking to him. They were friends throughout Lou Albano's entire life, and he was cast in the video for Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which was Cyndi Lauper's big hit song. And it's actually one of the things we'll talk about while we're running down the actual show is how many different pieces of music, like all the music you heard on this show was not the actual music that was played at the arena that day. It was all dubbed in later because of rights issues. Like every single one of them. Starting with so Albano comes in, and Cyndi Lauper's manager and producer and I either boyfriend or husband at the time, who was with her, David Wolf, was a huge wrestling fan. A huge wrestling fan. And I think it was more of he was into it more than she was. And because she was so busy, she was like a megastar. It's weird because celebrity's a little bit different now. It's not like if they would have gotten Taylor Swift to do an angle. I don't think Cyndi Lauper was quite that big. But it'd be like if they would have gotten like a Miley Cyrus at the peak of her fame or somebody like that to do something in wrestling. I think that's kind of roughly what it would be like. So they do this feud with Albano. Albano was a heel at the time. Albano and Lauper, where Albano's like a sexist. Albano is runs down women, runs down Cyndi Lauper in particular, and he winds up managing the Fabulous Moolah. And there was a huge huge event in the summer of 1984, where WWF had a special on MTV called the Brawl to End It All. And up until, I believe, either it still is the most watched show on MTV in MTV history, or I'm pretty sure it finally got beaten like the late 90s by one of the VMAs. But for the first about 20 years almost that MTV existed, this wrestling special was the most watched show in the history of MTV. And it was just one match. It was like a half-hour special. And it was Wendy Richter beating the Fabulous Moolah and ending her, not real, like 28-year reign as the women's champion. So that after that, Albano turns babyface because now we're going to put the heat on Piper. Like Lauper and Albano become friendly. Albano starts managing baby faces, and they follow up the Brawl to End It All in February. So about 6 weeks before WrestleMania, they do the War to Settle the Score on the War to Settle the Score on my brain just kind of evaporated there for a second. They do that on in February of '85, and the lead up to this, they had people going like, Piper, you're going down, because it was Hulk Hogan against Roddy Piper. And they even had Geraldine Ferraro, who shortly before this was the first woman on a presidential ticket. They got blown out, but she was the first woman on a presidential ticket. She was a part of the ticket that lost to Ronald Reagan. And so on one of these shows, I don't remember which one. I think it might have been the first one, the Brawl to End It All. There was a whole thing besides the match where Dick Clark was in there, and a gold record got broken over to present a gold record to Cyndi Lauper, which got broken over Albano's head. Piper threw Cyndi Lauper down. It was wild. And I don't remember which one of those shows that was on, but that was a big part of the lead up. And then also, while this is all happening, Mr. T is getting involved. Mr. T was in the crowd there. I think he came in and stopped Piper. Mr. T obviously was a huge star here. He was in the same movie Rocky III as Hogan a few years before this in '81. And then he's a huge star on the A-Team now too. So this is all kind of leading to WrestleMania, which was this is really what made everything else possible. Vince McMahon, if WrestleMania would have been a failure, Vince was probably done. He put all his eggs into this basket. He put all of his eggs in this basket. If it didn't do great, closed circuit. And he had gambled on closed circuit and lost before. Vince was one of the closed circuit promoters for the infamous fight between Muhammad Ali and Antonio Inoki in the 70s. He was involved with a closed circuit for an Evel Knievel stunt jump that tanked. So he was going back to the well, but it was with actual wrestling this time. It was with his product. He was going back to a well where he took a beating 2 times before this. And the result is WrestleMania. One of the things we were talking about before we went live here is that the night before this, so March 30th of '85, and I actually just watched it in the lead up today, Hogan and Mr. T hosted Saturday Night Live. They were all over the media. They did a great job getting the marketing machine behind this, and obviously it was a success. Look at where we are now.
Yeah. So for me, when this show starts, it took a little bit for it to find itself. And one of the questions I did having with this is like, there was some storytelling build up to it, but like my question was, Saturday night main event wasn't really a TV show yet. Like there wasn't really like MTV, not besides the MTV stuff. There wasn't really like weekly wrestling television to tell this story or other stories. Like, was it like, so how did people like tune in every week to like the WWF product?
So this is like, cable is still kind of new at this point. So cable TV like USA, TBS, TNT is still kind of new, but it's getting bigger. It's growing. But still your bread and butter is syndication. And I think at this point it still wasn't, I think it was still Championship Wrestling, which is the one they usually filmed in Allentown, and All-Star Wrestling, which was the one they would film in Hamburg. I may have those mixed up, but they were still doing the TV tapings at the Hamburg Fieldhouse that they did before Vince bought the company. And that was your weekly TV. And then with cable, They also had Tuesday Night Titans. They even mentioned Lord Alfred Hayes is one of the hosts of Tuesday Night Titans. All American Wrestling. Ryan Vox just put in the chat. All American Wrestling was another live wrestling show, or not live, but it was a wrestling show they had on USA. And it's funny because when they first did All American Wrestling, they would show other people besides the WWF, but they would show people they intended on stealing. Like if they were if Vince is thinking like, okay, I'm probably going to sign Ricky Steamboat, and Ricky Steamboat's working for Mid-Atlantic, he's going to showcase Ricky Steamboat and then steal him out from under Jim Crockett. And he already has like TV exposure. But at this point, your big drivers, like the cable thing is big, and obviously the MTV stuff was a huge step forward with this. But you did have your syndicated shows. You still had they would go on like in a few years, that like a year or two after this, it would be Wrestling Challenge and Superstars, because really until Monday Night Raw, until like 1993, most of your big angles happened either on Saturday Night's Main Event, which was a special they did like maybe 5 or 6 times a year, or they happened on Superstars or Wrestling Challenge.
Okay.
It was those Saturday morning syndicated TV shows.
Yeah. Real quick before we get any further, for our live chat viewers, we are reading the comments. Appreciate you guys. And huge thank you to A for the $3 super sticker. That helps out more than you guys know. Thank you. I will be getting to our subscriber people towards the end of the show, so I did not forget that. Just hang out towards the end for that reading. But yeah, so Mean Gene is going to be your person to sing your national anthem. And I think Ryan Vox kind of alluded to it. After this, all Mania's switched over to America the Beautiful. So, but Mean Gene Okerlund out here singing. It was supposed to be a celebrity guest singer, but they refused to name who failed to appear. So I don't know if that was ever talked about or discussed, who was originally supposed to do the national anthem, but they always said that they never really said it was supposed to be somebody, but that it ended up being Mean Gene.
So to grade Mean Gene here, not as good as Boys to Men, better than Rockin' Robin.
Yes, and boy, does he speed run through this. And he has cards, so he doesn't forget the lyrics. I noticed he was reading at the cards. And then, do you think if somebody would
I did notice? Like, I think I would be able to. I'm sorry, I had a little bit of that delay's kicking in again.
Good. Yeah. So with this delay, you play boss. Like if you just get your thoughts out, and I'll work off you.
Okay, yeah, that works.
It's a rough one. It's funny. It's a rough one today, everybody. We apologize.
They definitely did switch over to America the Beautiful. I just kept it on after I was done watch WrestleMania. WrestleMania 2 clicked on, and yeah, Ray Charles is WrestleMania 2, and it's America the Beautiful, and it's Aretha Franklin very famously for WrestleMania 3, and I think WrestleMania 4 was like Gladys Knight. So they did tend to stick with the celebrities for the most part. But yeah, Okerlund did fine, and I think they just liked having Gene Okerlund sing too, because this is around the time of the first wrestling album, which Mean Gene Okerlund sings Tutti Frutti on.
Yeah,
and it's funny because that also has Real American, but at this, I don't think Real American was something they had yet, and originally it wasn't going to be for Hogan, it was going to be for somebody else on this card. It was going to be for the U.S. Express.
Yeah. So when Mean Gene does this, do you think in modern times, if you ask the crowd for participation and go, "Come on, everybody," during the national anthem, do you think you'd be crucified for that?
Maybe. Some people tend to be very traditionalist. I know, but sometimes people change it up too. Like I know Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, he would, as opposed to all the other Steven Tylers we know, he would do the national anthem a lot. And whatever the event was, like if he did it at the Super Bowl, the land of the free and the home of the Super Bowl, he would always work the name of, be the land of the free and the home of WrestleMania. But however he did it, I was trying to think who did WrestleMania 6, but I remember they were in Canada, and it was Robert Goulet, who was brought up on the show. I think Ventura actually compares Mean Gene to Robert Goulet.
Yeah. So there's a few things that I just want to point out at the beginning, and you can kind of touch on some things right away for you before we even get in any matches. Opening video, rough production. Some of the production stuff here, you can definitely tell they're learning as they go.
Well, the thing about the opening video too, the thing about the opening video is this is the first part where the music isn't the actual music. So the music that was to go with that opening video was Easy Lover by Phil Collins and Philip Bailey. That was like the original WrestleMania theme. But yeah, their production, just going from WrestleMania 1 to WrestleMania 2, the production is night and day different. The lighting's so much better. This looks like just any Madison Square Garden house show, really. And when I mentioned earlier that the night before this, Hogan and Mr. T, and I think this was like in the afternoon. I think like WrestleMania 1 was at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a matinee. So like 12 hours before this, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T are hosting Saturday Night Live, which was run by Dick Ebersol, who wound up becoming a big TV executive, big shot with NBC. He's the guy who greenlit Saturday Night's Main Event. And that started later this year. I think the summer of 85 is when you had the first Saturday Night's Main Event. And he really did a lot to modernize WWF's production. He helped with the cameras, the lighting, and it looks completely different. And they don't really stick the landing with production on a WrestleMania until WrestleMania 3.
Yeah. And then I absolutely love, and I want more wrestling productions to do this. And if you're watching independent wrestling ones, please bring this back. And plus, people like BP get more work. I love the pre-match promo where one guy's on one side of Mean Gene, one guy's on the other, and all one does is one steps away and the other one steps in, and they just work off each other's promos against each other. Yeah. And I think every wrestling promotion should do this. Coin flip. You do your promo, walk away, you do your promo, and that's what we're putting out before a match, because I love that flow. That's what makes Mean Gene what we now know as Mean Gene, of his backstage interview skills. And I think it's something in pro wrestling that kind of gets away from, but this is your early day pro wrestling. This is what I personally love the best, is just those quick little promos. I'm going to go out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then back to you ringside. But also on that note, the lordship Alfred Hayes is not my favorite ringside guy here. He looks absolutely terrified. He's trying his best, but people are walking right in front of his shot. He's just not in a good space. It's an absolute nightmare for Alfred. But Mean Gene definitely shines bright through the backstage segments. And also, it looks like a New Japan show. Or an indie show. There is 9,000 photographers, commentary tables up pushed. It looks like the old Hamburg Fieldhouse, where commentary is right up against the ring, how that old school feel. The timekeeper's right next to the ring. Like, everything's so tight to that ring, and there's so many photographers. It really, really gives that old school ringside thing. But imagine paying today's money for front row seats, and all you're looking at is the back of a cameraman the whole time. Like, you're like, oh, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, they don't really do the shot where they stand on the apron anymore. I guess because there's so much more flying and things like that. They used to always have the camera guys like right up on the apron, and they haven't done that in a long time. Now, just being we went to a Raw at the end of 2022, and the camera guys there in WWE now don't move. They might now, they changed production, but they didn't move. They were just parked in the two bottom corners closest to hard cam and just stayed there unless there was fighting on the outside.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed here too, the ropes. The ropes are not set like they normally are in modern day wrestling, because no one's using the ropes as springboards. No one's really going to the top rope. And if they are, man, those ropes sagged. Like, somebody would hit the rope and it would go almost ball to the second rope. And then there's some, like, the executioner gets in the ring early, and Wendy Rickner does it too. She literally takes the middle rope and the top rope and just smashes them together at one point. Like, just kind of pulls the two ropes together. Like, they are just not set how you normally would in today's modern day wrestling. And it's just something that caught my eye. Like, they would hit those ropes that hard. And I was like, oh, like, I thought they were going out.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those older rings where there wasn't a lot of give either, because they had to support guys like Andre the Giant and Big John Studd. Those early, until the mid-90s, those WWF rings were notoriously hard to bump on. And then they also, WWF, and I think they still do this as WWE, they were one of the few promotions that would actually use rope and not like elevator cable or something a little stronger. They would use rope.
Oh, wow. Yeah, those it was really alarming. Like, when we'll get into our first match here, the executioner goes to the top rope for a spot, and he stands on that top rope, and that top rope's almost touching the second rope, and I'm like, oh my Jesus, that had to be terrifying.
Some of these promos were doozies too. Some of these promos weren't the greatest, with the executioner, we don't know anything about him, but we know he's going to go for the leg. He's going for Tito Santana's leg.
I like that.
No, it sets up the psychology of the match. I thought it was fine too.
It's one of the only matches on the show that actually did any in-ring psychology too. Like everything after this, they kind of stay away from that. But this, like, as an opening match, I think it does a great job because it sells the psychology of the leg. Tito is clearly going for his next opponent, kind of Greg Hammer Valentine. He's not looking through his opponent, but he's calling his shot. He how the match finishes, and then the whole working of the leg and the submission skills was a kind of a cool nod to get to your next matchup.
So the psychology there too, it's a little twofold, because just to set the framework here, Tito Santana had recently lost the Intercontinental title to Greg Valentine. He was vying to get it back. He eventually does get it back not that long after this. And Tito Santana and Greg Valentine both would primarily win their matches with the figure 4 leg lock. So going after the leg is something that's psychologically sound for the feud, because the executioner is basically saying, I'm going to attack the leg, so I'm softening Santana up for Greg Valentine. Even if I don't beat him, I'm going to soften him up for the Hammer. And as it was said in the chat, the executioner is very famously Playboy Buddy Rose, who is a guy who is well, I think this is the only time he was ever the executioner, so it was just probably somebody's mask. I don't know why he just wasn't Buddy Rose. I don't know why he did it this way. He was wrestling at the time as Buddy Rose a little bit there. He's most known WWF wise for his run later on in the early 90s, because Buddy Rose put on a bit of weight after this, and he was always billed as 318 pounds, but he would say he was 218 pounds. And they had this whole gimmick for him in the early 90s where he was trying to sell this stuff called Blowaway. It looked like boxed powdered laundry detergent, and he said basically all you have to do is rub this Blowaway stuff on you, sit in front of an electric fan, and it'll blow the weight away. But he always looked the same, and that's probably what he's most famous for. He was a former AWA tag team champion with Pretty Boy Doug Summers. I don't think this is anywhere, but if you see some of those old matches with Buddy Rose and Doug Summers against the, at the time, Midnight Rockers, it's one of the last great AWA feuds. And Buddy Rose was also a big star in Portland. That's kind of his home territory. And also, this is kind of a thing that's a little lesser known. Buddy Rose was very instrumental in archiving a lot of wrestling, because he may have been, they think, one of the first handful of people in the United States that had a recordable VCR where you could record things off of your TV. And so he was one of the early people who would tape wrestling. And a lot of the Portland TV we have, early Portland stuff we have, or wherever territory was at, is because of Buddy Rose.
Wow. Yeah. Overall, good match. I didn't hate it. It's a good opener. Tito Santana is a beast. Good. And Buddy does a great job being the masked heel and telling the story. He wins with a submission here. And once again, he kind of calls out, I'm coming for you, Greg, because I won with your move. Our next match here is going to be SD Jones. Huh?
Very quick match.
Yes. Versus King Kong Bundy. And boy, this one is quick. It's a squash. One thing I wanted to point out here, SD Jones with some Phillies inspired gear. He is billed from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and he's rocking these Phillies, kind of like that powder blue, red, maroonish Phillies colors gear. But this one goes down in 9 seconds. Now it says the former record for fastest wrestling match is 23 seconds. Do we know who holds that at this point?
No, and this match was way longer than 9 seconds too. So and there have been shorter matches since. I'm trying to think of memorably short matches. I know there was one with Diesel and King Mabel from, I think it was a Raw in early 1996. It was the Raw Bowl, and I think it's billed as 8 seconds. Diesel just basically charges across the ring, boots Mabel, and pins him. So they're just trying to heat up Bundy here, and it works. Bundy, by the next WrestleMania, Bundy's in the main event. So
Yeah.
Bundy, this is just a Bundy showcase. A Bundy showcase. Backlund and Diesel too. Yeah, Steven Chambers in the chat. Backlund and Diesel had kick to the stomach, jackknife, 1, 2, 3. That's probably the quickest. Sheamus and Daniel Bryan was 18 seconds, which was Sheamus and Daniel Bryan is actually probably legitimately shorter than this because there was no way this was 9 seconds.
Yeah, they were saying on commentary 9 seconds, but it definitely wasn't. Our next match here, this is probably one of my favorite matches on the card. I thought it was Matt Bourne versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yeah.
Promo in the beginning was fun. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat at this point is in like a bulking phase. This dude is Hoss mode. Like he's just rounded and just like bulked. Because later on, when he goes to wrestle Macho Man in what 2 more WrestleManias from now, he's very lean. Like he's still very big, but he's leaned out. He's cut up. He's very defined. But this is Hoss mode. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Matt Bourne, insanely talented man. He bumps so well here. He sells. But one of the things about Matt Bourne is, man, his charisma is really, really good. Like from the second you see him, you think this guy's a dick. Like this guy is a bad guy. Like the way the referee's double checking him and he's talking to the ref and he's doing like cross my heart, but like you can mouth what you can mouth what he's saying to the referee, which I think is important when you're relaying that to a TV audience or a crowd in the thing. Very, very insanely talented. Once again, we talked about him before, and obviously with his Dark Side of the Rings and stuff, but as a talent, man, so goddamn good. And he does something in the beginning of the match that I don't know if it's him trying to be funny, if he's trying to pop.
He is a bit of a clown. He is a bit of a clown.
To pop Ricky, but he drops down to the knee and he does a Jimmy Snuka pose.
Well, Jimmy Snuka and Ricky Steamboat at this time were a somewhat regular tag team. They weren't like always tagging up, but they were called the South Pacific Connection. So yeah, it was probably it was Bourne mocking Steamboat by like doing his tag partner's pose.
Mocking Steamboat, or maybe telling the crowd how the match is going to finish.
Or that he could be telegraphing a little bit.
Because this match finishes with a crossbody, and they literally say on commentary, shades of his partner. Jesse goes, shades of Jimmy Superfly Snuka there with that crossbody victory. Snuka, yeah.
Shades of Jimmy Snuka Gino. Nobody calls Gorilla Monsoon Gorilla in this entire show. All Lord Alfred and Jesse call him as Gino.
Gino, yeah, the whole time.
That's what everybody called him. He was Gino Morella, like that. That's what everybody called.
Yeah, but it was weird just to kind of like, was it him blowing the finish just to be like, hey, he's beating me Snuka style, or was like, you know what I mean? Like
maybe
Matt Bourne's just very good, very, very talented, very interesting.
Matt Bourne.
I thought this match was good. I thought it was a really good pace. I thought, yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. But one of the things I will notice with this pay-per-view, and this is where it really starts hitting home for me, was match 3 is when it really started hitting my brain. And I was like, oh, this is different. Like, you understand, like, the way they do a pre-match. Guy comes down. Usually one guy's already in the ring. The heel's already in the ring as the promos happen. After the promo, the babyface comes out. So that's kind of different. And it doesn't matter if you're a big build or not. Like you sometimes don't get an entrance unless you're the main event. If you're the secondary person, announcing the people in the ring, not like, so today's wrestling is the wrestler is coming to the ring, this guy from here, and then they get in the ring and they announce him again. And after every time someone's announced, they ring the bell. The bell's being rung every 30 seconds. Like in between people, bell ring, match start, bell ring, match over, bell ring. Match over and maybe a bell ring. Like if you do a drinking game at WrestleMania 1, every time the bell goes off, you are dead. You're going to the hospital for alcohol poisoning because that bell goes off all the time. That bell's ringing like crazy.
Yeah, and I wish they would have taken the time that this Steamboat Matt Bourne match got and the time that the next match got and just flipped them. Because this next match, I quite literally fell asleep on this next match.
Next match is rough. I will say
when you're talking about
next match, though,
all-time, when you're talking about all-time bad second-generation wrestlers, we're going to be talking about one of them here.
Yes. So next match is going to be David Sammartino with his dad, Bruno, taking on Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Johnny Valiant. So one thing about this match that I love, straight from the promo, is Johnny Valiant. I got to learn more about this guy. I don't know a lot about Johnny Valiant. I want him as a future topic. This guy is entertaining as fuck. He literally steps in front of the camera, doesn't let the camera see Brutus. He goes, "I'm not letting you talk." And he's talking through these sunglasses, and he lifts them up and he's cross-eyed and he puts them back down. And as that happens, Gene is trying not to pop. Brutus is trying to bite his lip. Like, he's 100% popping everyone there. He's just insanely entertaining. I could not stop looking at the stuff he was doing after the promo in the ring, the way he took bumps at later on, spoiler alert. Bruno comes flying down wrestling. Like Bruno looks amazing at 50 years old here, or whatever, how old he is. He looks like he still can go. Like, he can get in the ring and put a 25-minute match on. He wrestled
not all the time, but he would wrestle occasionally up until about 1986. Or 1987 rather. He did a lot of matches with Savage when Savage was Intercontinental Champion. He did matches with, in fact, this match is basically, it's funny because this is it's not a pay-per-view, but it's literally the first this was just closed circuit. It wasn't on pay-per-view. Pay-per-view wasn't really a thing yet. They had a pay-per-view later in the year, the Wrestling Classic. But this match was basically there to set up a match at the next show at the Garden. Either the next show at the Garden or the show after, they did Bruno and David Sammartino against Johnny Valiant and Beefcake. And so Johnny Valiant was part of the Valiant brothers, which was Johnny and Jimmy and Jerry. There were a few different Valiants. And Jimmy, and they weren't really related. Jimmy Valiant was obviously more famous for being the Boogie Woogie Man. Talked about him a little bit last month. That was the gimmick last week. That was a gimmick Ole Anderson gave him. But Jimmy was more famous down south. It was usually Johnny and Jerry were the Valiants in New York, as they say. So yeah, Johnny Valiant was it's funny. You can see the influence of Johnny Valiant in a guy I think is incredibly entertaining, Sidney Bacabella.
Yes,
you can definitely see a bit of that influence. It's like Tony Clifton, Johnny Valiant. You can definitely see the influences there. And yeah, this match was just a little too long. David Sammartino was not great. Brutus Beefcake has a reputation for not being the best wrestler. David Sammartino made Brutus Beefcake look like Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, Brutus Bar Beefcake, a young Brutus Bar Beefcake. First off, good looking guy in amazing shape. So like, I didn't see Brutus until much later Manias.
Not
like
the barber yet either.
Yeah, and he's not a barber yet, but he also from parts unknown. He's built from parts unknown. Brutus the Barber Beefcake. But he's kind of a beefcake carry. He looks good. He has a good look to him. He makes, like you said, he makes Dave look like he knows what he's doing because Dave can't throw a strike to save his life. This match breaks down really weird. Dave gets tossed to the outside. Valiant hits him with a scoop slam, throws him back in the ring. Bruno comes flying over, throws him in the ring. Melee breaks out. Bruno looks 100 times better than his kid with his kicks and his punches. And the referee just says, double DQ, we're out of here.
Yeah, no, Bruno Sammartino is the longest reigning WWF champion in history for a reason. Bruno Sammartino was great. And yeah, he was the only guy that he was, and to this point, he probably on this entire show, I think there's maybe only a handful of people that get a bigger response. Yeah, maybe Andre,
I did
maybe
write that
Hogan.
Down. When Bruno gets in the ring, that place goes crazy.
To this point, yeah, it's by far the biggest pop.
Yeah,
to this
and
point.
it's our first match of the card
later,
where both people that are wrestling are actively still alive.
Yeah.
Not everyone involved, but the two active wrestlers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Johnny Valiant, I believe he got hit by a car, and that led to his passing.
Yeah.
But most of these matches, you have some people that are still alive. And besides Andre and Stud, and besides SD Jones and Bundy, I think there's at least one person alive in every other match. Yeah.
But we always say, like, is when a match has two people that are still actively alive. It's our first one now. Like, everyone, like, there, like, a lot of people have passed that are on this, and other people who are still alive that are involved. But this is our first where the two contenders are actually still alive. But yeah, it goes too long. The Bruno pop was huge. Valiant is insanely entertaining. He gets punched out and he's getting carried to the back with his eyes crossed, and he's nuts. Match 4. is going to be Greg the Hammer Valentine versus JYD Junkyard Dog. All right, I'm going to sound like a hater. I don't hate you as a human, Greg the Hammer Valentine, but as a kid, I never got you. I thought you were weird. I thought you looked strange. I thought you were funny looking. And I always thought you were like a bootleg version of Ric Flair. I thought like WWE didn't have Ric Flair, so they made their own version. Like he came out with the robe. He had the bleach blonde hair. He wasn't nearly as good looking or in as good shape. But they built him to be kind of a badass a lot, like as the early days, like the IC champion and always kind of in contention. But he uses a figure 4, like I think his robe says Nature Boy on it or something. I don't know. It's a hammer, but it looks like it's like in the Nature Boy font. Like it's 100% like, and him and Flair at one point in time were tag team partners, from my understanding. But I just never got into Greg the Hammer Valentine. I don't know. I see his matches and I go, meh, but this match isn't awful. Yeah. It's not terrible.
Yeah, even for this time, Greg Valentine's a little bit of a throwback. His father, Johnny Valentine, was a remarkable wrestler, one of the most popular wrestlers in the Mid-Atlantic territory. In fact, Johnny Valentine was in the plane crash that Ric Flair was in. It ended his career. So the thing with Greg Valentine is it's not just he's kind of relatively new in WWF at this point. There's a few people, there's a small handful of people who were on the first Starrcade and the first Starrcade and the first WrestleMania. Ricky Steamboat was, Greg Valentine was, Roddy Piper was. I might be missing one or two. But yeah, Greg Valentine, in fact, if you want to see a great old school match, Roddy Piper, Greg Valentine dog collar match at the first Starrcade is something. But yeah, Greg Valentine was very dry, and I think that was what made him a great heel. And he was always good at getting heat no matter wherever he went. He infamously broke Wahoo McDaniel's leg with the figure 4 and had an I broke Wahoo's leg t-shirt. So Valentine here he's one of the higher level heels. He would work with Hogan a little bit here and there. And in fact, I think on one of those either War to Settle the Score or Brawl to End It All was before he was Intercontinental Champion. He wrestled Hogan in a match that wasn't on the MTV broadcast.
When does the IC title flip from this one to what we kind of mostly know throughout the rest of this era?
Not long after this. A lot of the titles change very quickly after this because at WrestleMania 2, the Intercontinental Champion is Savage, and he has the one that most people think of when they think of the Intercontinental title.
These titles are rough looking. Real rough looking.
Yeah, all the titles got a bit of a facelift shortly after this. By WrestleMania 2, I think we have the tag titles that most people remember from the Golden Era. The Intercontinental title, most people remember for the Golden Era. You don't get the Eagle title for the WWF title until WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, because Andre has his version of the World Championship that's like 10 times bigger because they made it.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. It was like, it's a belt that can fit a giant. They were actually they had a belt made that would actually fit around Andre's waist, even though he wasn't winning it.
Yeah. So that so this match kind of breaks down as well. Greg the Hammer Valentine wins.
Sick bump from Jimmy Hart.
Yeah. Greg the Hammer Valentine wins, puts his legs on the rope, and then another referee and comes down, and they're just like, his foot was there. Yeah.
Tito comes down.
Decision. Tito comes down.
Yeah. It's one of the only times ever that somebody's like, yeah, well, he cheated. He's like, oh, okay, I believe you. Match is back on.
It wasn't even back on. They talked about it forever.
Me of a spot they did in Chikara. I think it was Chikara. You know, they started the match back up, and Valentine just walked out. He counted himself out. That was how they did that. Like Valentine wound up winning, or JYD wound up winning by count out. But
that's
the only time I can remember.
Just the count out spot didn't make sense because it's like, well, he just to restart it for him to walk out again. It was weird.
I think it would have been better off just having Valentine win it. I think I just they wanted to get a little heat back for JYD. JYD, he's relatively new here. He had jumped over from Mid-South where he was basically their Hulk Hogan. And he would stick around for a bit. Not the best wrestler, but ridiculously entertaining, ridiculously over. And this is all just to set up Valentine and Tito. A few months after this, Tito is going to wind up winning that Intercontinental title back and not having it for long. He drops it to Randy Savage relatively short after. But the only other time I can remember a ref kind of taking somebody's word for it was a thing they did in I'm 90% sure it was Chikara, where they did the heel. That's the 1-2 and a kick out, and the heel goes, "That was three, ref." And the ref, I think it was Remsburg, just goes, "Okay," rings the bell, like he believed them.
Huge thank you to Freak Maniac for the $5 super chat. Don't mind me here. I'm just paying my required horny jail tax. Love to see you. Every time Freak hits on me, I tell him he has to pay a fee. So it's the only way we're making money. If people are gonna say I'm a cutie, they gotta pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I gotta cash in on these good looks, BP. Our next match, speaking of cashing in on good looks. It's a weird segue. Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov with classy Freddie Blassie will be coming down with Barry Windham, Mike Rotunda, with one of my all-time favorites, Captain Lou Albano.
Drinking a beer, and Captain Lou drinking a beer in the promo.
Turn a promo. This is Super Mario, and he's drinking a beer on TV.
Well, Lou Albano, when he passed away, it was when Paul Heyman was on the outs with WWE. And Paul Heyman did an interview with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, because Heyman came up when he was like 15, 16 years old. He would take pictures at Madison Square Garden, and he wound up at a very early age basically driving in Albano and Blassie to the Garden. And Albano was a legendary, like he would be so drunk every time they were at the Garden. He would get drunk, he would get in a fight, he would quit, he would come back. And so Lil Albano was just there, drinking a beer with the US Express.
Yeah, insane. With the thing sticking through his skin.
The rubber bands. Like, I always think of that with the Captain Lou action figure, which it's more of his WrestleMania 2. It's more of his WrestleMania 2 look, which is like black pants and a blue vest and a t-shirt that has his face on it. But he would have the rubber bands on his face. And this is another. Sorry, this is another situation where they dub out the music, because the U.S. Express would wind up getting Real American, but Born in the USA was their theme, and obviously they're not going to pay for the rights to Born in the USA.
Yeah. Also with this match, Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov's going to sing a different national anthem.
Russian,
the place hates. Yeah, the place hates it.
They're pelting them with garbage.
Oh, garbage is the whole show. This match. Someone throws trash in, and then the rest of the pay-per-view is anytime they don't like you, they're throwing trash in the ring.
Well, these are now we're moving up the card. These are like the people who are really, really over. Both the
and the beers kicked in. The beers have kicked in at this point in the show. Yeah. But yeah, trash goes all over the ring. This is one of our first inductees of this year's current 2024 Hall of Fame. We're going to get the U.S. Express here as tag team being inducted this year. 2 people on this card from WrestleMania 1 being inducted into this year's Hall of Fame. We'll get to that next one later. But fine match. Everyone involved in this match is good at wrestling. They know what they're doing. And we get new tag team champions with Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik.
Yeah, Blassie intervenes. Blassie's cane gets involved, even though I didn't even have a cane.
Well, Sheik hits him with the cane. I think the cane cuts Sheik's hand open because he's bleeding like a pig in the post interview.
On his knuckle, And if only Tito Santana was there to say, "Hey, they used the cane. They should be disqualified."
No goody two shoes over there. Yeah. But yeah, so that was a fight.
This is the requisite. Like, the heels have to win somewhere along the way. So this is the top match that the heels win, and the U.S. Express get the titles back a little bit later in the year, and then drop them fairly quickly to the Dream Team, which was Valentine and Beefcake. And it was shortly around that time, so it was later this year that Wyndham leaves, and it's Rotunda and Dan Spivey for a little bit.
Yeah. We'll get into our next one here unless you have anything else going on. Match 6.
That was a fun match.
Big John Studd versus Andre the Giant. This will be the Body Slam Bounty Challenge, where it's $15,000 if you can slam the Giant. This is a very slow
Slam John Studd, not the Giant.
Oh yeah, Slam John Studd, not the Giant. This is a very slow paced match, and there's nothing. To me, nothing insane here.
Andre was he was a little more mobile than he would be later in his career when he would be a heel, but Nikolai Volkov looked like huge. He looked like a bruiser in that match. But the big thing here, the lead up to this, when Andre the Giant is still a baby face, it was shortly before this. And when we were talking earlier about the TV the TV, the syndicated TV Championship Wrestling, All-Star Wrestling. That was really where the big angles happened. One of the big angles leading up to this was a tag team match with Andre the Giant and SD Jones against Stud and Bundy, who were both managed by Heenan. And they knock out, something happens where they knock out Andre. I forget how they knock him out, but they cut his hair. Because if you ever see old things of Andre the Giant, he had like a big afro.
Mm-hmm.
And here
they actually just it's hitting stores now, but the WWE Walmart exclusive Superstar line, which has a lot of shades of old WrestleMania figures, like there is a Captain Lou with the record and stuff like that. Andre comes with a changeable head, the only figure so far in the lineup that the head changes, and his head is the afro. But then when you take off his black singlet, and I think his legs change too. You can change his legs from black boots to blue boots, and then underneath the black singlet is the blue trunks, and then you put the afro head on. So you could do that version of Andre, or you could do the black singlet Andre and have him face to face with your Hogan. There's two Hogans. There's Hogan and Andre version, and then there's Hogan and a Mr. T, both in their red jumpsuits.
Oh, okay. And then very astutely, the commentators point out, if Andre can slam stud, he wins $15,000, but if he can't, he has to retire. It's like, they just don't seem like very even stakes. Odds. Like, it seems like Andre's putting up a lot to get this, and he doesn't even get the money.
No, they run away. The slapping of the hand of Bobby Heenan in the back was great during that promo. Get your hands out of my money.
Oh yeah, Heenan's the best ever. Dude.
Great.
And yeah, so Andre does slam John Studd, and he starts throwing money, probably dollar bills, out into the crowd, and Heenan quickly grabs a bag and runs to the back. But yeah, so it's very plotting. It's not a great match, but
yeah,
they loved Andre the Giant. What can you say?
Now we're gonna get match 7 with the fabulous Moolah bringing out Layla and Leilani, and then we're gonna get Cyndi Lauper with some girl real
Wendy
fast.
Richter.
Wendy Richter. I'm gonna fuck you up, Tony Storm. There, we had a little Tony cam. So for those who are like, who is Tony Storm talking about in the press conferences? Here she is. This is Wendy Richter, who's gonna go for the women's championship here. I'm gonna say this right now. I don't think this is for a women's match.
The ladies championship, they called it.
Yeah, the ladies championship. I think both of them knew enough what they were doing that it looked like a wrestling match.
Yeah.
Like, it's better than
they were both wrestlers. Like, they're not celebrities.
Yeah, this was a good match.
Yeah, no, I thought it was very good. Obviously, Cyndi Lauper and Wendy Richter are super over. Wendy Richter is one of those people where you don't really get how popular she was. She was so popular. She may have been. She wasn't like at Hogan's level, but she wasn't that far off of it. And what happened was, not too long after this, she thought she should get paid like that because she was that popular, and they thought differently. So she was working around the loop with a wrestler under a mask called the Spider Lady, and I don't know who the usual Spider Lady was, but decades before, or at least a decade and a half before, about a decade and change before Montreal, Wendy Richter wrestled the Spider Lady, but it was Moolah, not the usual Spider Lady. Small package, Moolah cinched up, and they literally screwed Richter. They double crossed her in the match, and she lost the title and left.
Wow.
So yeah, that's why there's no Wendy Richter at WrestleMania 2. WrestleMania 2, Moolah's the champion again.
It's crazy too in this match because there's a point at the end where like everything kind of breaks down and Wendy's about to win, and Cyndi Lauper just is beating the shit out of Moolah from inside the ring, and Moolah's on the apron. And it's so the camera doesn't even catch it. It catches it at the end, and you can tell Moolah like says something to Lauper, and then Lauper comes out of the ring after her, and then people are holding Lauper, and then Moolah gets in the ring and realizes that the 3 count's about to happen, so she just like sells. She just falls to her face and crawls away. So, but she's like, it looked like she's legit trying to get away from Cyndi Lauper, who is just looks unhinged.
Yeah, no, Moolah knew how to make it work. Moolah knew. There's a lot of negative things you can say about Moolah, but she knew how to make it work, and she knew how to make Cyndi Lauper look like a competent manager.
Yeah, and then she drop kicks the referee. Yeah, it was wild, absolutely wild. I always knew of Cyndi Lauper and I like Cyndi Lauper, but I didn't realize how much I appreciated Becky Lynch's portrayal of Cyndi Lauper more than after watching this again and like having it fresh in my brain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Becky Lynch did a great job with the voice and everything. Like when they and then they go backstage and they interview Lauper, and she's got fucking lipstick all over her teeth. She looks like a psycho, and she's like, "I'm gonna kick Moolah's ass." like Lauper really got into this wrestling bit, and they probably should have used her more because she was into it.
Well, I mean, she was a huge star, and she did what. And I think shortly after this is when her and Dave Wolf broke up, and he was the one that was really in the whole wrestling thing. But yeah, she was fine. She is, if you're talking about celebrities that have had a huge impact on the course of professional wrestling, Cyndi Lauper is, and I'm not talking about people like The Rock who became celebrities from wrestling, but like celebrities who got into wrestling. Cyndi Lauper is at or near the top of the list of the ones that had the biggest impact. The only one I can think of that had an impact like at her level of really helping put WWF on the map is a little bit later Mike Tyson with Steve Austin, because that was where the tide really fully turned in WWF's favor when they had the Mike Tyson Steve Austin thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, after that match, this is where it gets wild. They come down and your main event's coming up. We're finally hit match 8 here. And this is like your guest spot, central spot here. This is where
they loaded the main event with like WrestleMania became known for celebrities for the first like maybe 10-15 years. They don't really do it anymore. But WrestleMania 2, I was just watching a little bit of that they're all over the place in that one. But with this one, they really, besides Cyndi Lauper, who had been a part of their angles for about a year at this point, they really, really, really front load or back loaded the celebrities into this match.
I think that's coming back. I think with TKO, I think you're maybe not in the ring as much, but I think you're going to see a lot more celebrity crossovers back in the pro wrestling. Dude, Monday Night Raws are like, this guy's in the crowd, this guy's in the crowd, this guy's got a CD coming out, make sure you go. Like they're definitely loading the celebrity aspect back into it, which I don't hate. I don't hate it fully. Fine. I think it's a lot of fun. It brings new eyes to a product, and that's good. That's how you get new people to watch pro wrestling. Like love them or hate them, Logan Paul brought another audience. Over. Like WWE doesn't hit 100 million subscribers if Logan Paul's not involved. I'm just being honest. Like he's helping a lot. But yeah, so we're gonna get Liberace's gonna come down and dance with the Rockettes, with the Rockettes, and then they're going to bring Muhammad Ali as the outside guest referee here. Muhammad Ali is definitely not the same Muhammad Ali that we remember as a world champion. I don't know if he's struggling at this point, but he's definitely like very mute. He's no facial expression really. Like he's not like we're used to see Muhammad Ali, like and he's very slow.
I believe this was toward the beginning of the onset of Parkinson's for him.
Yeah. Which it was rough to see. It was rough to see Muhammad Ali at that point in time. As a someone who's watched people put matches together, I don't know what they were trying to do with this match, because I thought they were trying to do more with like Piper and Muhammad, but it wasn't happening, or they couldn't get it to go down, because there's a point where Hogan gets dumped to the outside, and then I think something was supposed to happen with Mr. T and Orndorff, and then they both go out after Hogan, and then Muhammad Ali pushes everybody in, and then from that moment where it went to the outside to come back in, it seemed like the match never gained structure again. It was all over the place, and the entire time Mr. T just keeps trying to get in the ring, and Pat Patterson has to keep going over and stop roughing the match, like, hold this fucking rope and stay right there, and Mr. T's like, I'm getting in. Like he tries to get in like 13 times.
That could have been like a little bit of building toward the hot tag and Mr. T not really fully explaining how you work that spot. But that's also it's good that you mentioned Pat Patterson is the inside the ring official. The outside the ring official is Ali. The inside the ring official is Pat Patterson, and that's what they did. Like when they would bring in a celebrity, and they were afraid the celebrity might get lost in the match, Pat Patterson was always, because Pat Patterson was the one that would train them too, usually.
Yeah.
And so Pat Patterson was always there
coming in the ring
to make sure things went well. As the other time it happened was WrestleMania 11. Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow. Pat Patterson is also the referee of that match.
Oh, interesting. I have to go back and rewatch that. But yeah, that definitely stood out to me, is how much Pat Patterson, like Mr. T's just like, I'm getting in. And they're like, well, you can't do that, man. Hogan's like, brother, stay out, brother. Like it was a shit show.
There were some others, like he and Piper legitimately did not like one another. So there were some things that were going on with it too.
Piper and who? You cut out a little bit.
Roddy Piper and Mr. T. Apparently Roddy Piper and Mr. T had a little bit of friction.
I don't know if it was friction, but Piper said, only because you're a celebrity and I take myself very seriously as a pro wrestler, I don't think you should come in and pin me. Like,
no, I wonder if there are people back then who are like, oh, Mr. T's taking a spot from somebody. He shouldn't be in the main event. It should be for somebody else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it's okay. Yeah. In this moment, I didn't realize that Snuka was even a part of this. I forgot.
Yeah.
Like him and Cowboy Orton are like kind of afterthoughts in this whole thing. But they're also there. Snuka comes out with Hogan, and Bob Orton comes out with Piper. But yeah, so
it's quite over.
What's his name? I'm having a brain fart. Mr. Wonderful Orndorff. He is in insane shape. Like, you want to talk about probably the best body in WWE at that point in time? Mr. Wonderful is killing it.
Orndorff was in incredible shape. And even in WrestleMania 2, he was still in. Well, yeah. Like, obviously, like, there's a lot of candies. Dr. Zahorian kept these guys in good stock.
I know we talked about it in the older episode of Tornado Tag, but the moment where there was supposedly a fight where Orndorff was on TV, then immediately off TV because he try to fight somebody backstage, or
way later he knocked out Vader.
Yeah,
that was like the end of Vader in WCW, because Orndorff was like an agent at that point. He was wrestling, but he was also like office, and I think there was some kind of argument, and he knocked out Vader. Yeah, and then Vader got fired, and Orndorff, unfortunately, shortly after that, did suffer a career-ending injury. He did a match later on with a lot of the power plant guys he trained, but he actually got hurt during the match and they had to stop it. He had a really bad neck injury. As a matter of fact, like he had a neck injury where it caused muscle atrophy. So there's a point later on where one of his arms was visibly much bigger than the other. But Orndorff is a guy who doesn't really get his due as one of the top Hogan opponents in Hogan's run from like 84 to 93, 92, 93. People always talk about Andre. They talk about Piper. They talk about Savage. Paul Orndorff, especially that Saturday Night's Main Event in 86, the big event, which is a huge stadium show they did in Canada. Paul Orndorff was one of the top rivals of Hogan. And it's funny because they grew up like not too far from one another.
You look visually at Hulk Hogan, and maybe it's just my hatred of him now. But you look at Hogan, and he's in his 30s. He looks like he's 60. He's the bald horseshoe going on, the handlebar mustache. His arms and chest are in great shape, but he always had that little bit of a belly. Like, sometimes he was in great shape, sometimes he wasn't. His promos were just like, "Hey, dude," screaming all the time. And Orndorff was kind of like, he was like Lex Luger before Lex Luger. Like, this guy is a stud, and I feel like visually is the guy you go with at that point in time.
Hulk Hogan was a phenomenon at this point, though. Like, and you could look back and say, I don't get it, but
I didn't get it then either. Like, I'm like,
Hulk Hogan was
bum.
Hulk Hogan had just it's something he had it, and you don't have it by having a great body or being able to talk or being a great wrestler. There's just that je ne sais quoi that certain people have. John Cena has it. The Rock has it. Hulk Hogan had it or has it, and there's only a small handful. Bruno Sammartino had. He jumps off the screen at you, and that's what Hulk Hogan was. And Hulk Hogan was also he was very good at getting you to believe. And I think people, because of like the things that have gone on with Hulk Hogan personally, and even before that, even before the whole scandal thing, and the racism stuff, just his reputation as being a politician, like that soured a lot of people on him. But it's Hulk Hogan. And I think of this thing I saw, and I forget who wrote it, but they were like, somebody who watched one wrestling match would say Hulk Hogan is the greatest wrestler of all time. Somebody who's watched like 1,000 wrestling matches will say Hulk Hogan is awful. Somebody who's watched 1,000,000 wrestling matches will say Hulk Hogan is the greatest wrestler. He's not the greatest wrestler of all time, but there is something special about Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I don't even like I said, even as a kid, he didn't jump out at me like everyone else did. Like I watched, like you said, you watch one, you're fine. You watch 5 or 6, it just got old very quick for me. But that's essentially gonna wrap up WrestleMania. BP, what do you think of this show? It means something because it's the first one, but obviously it has its hiccups, it has its timing issues. There's a lot going on, but there's like I would say out of the 8 matches, I think there's like 4 or 5 decent ones that you can be like, oh, that women's match stood out. Bourne versus, this person's like Bourne versus Steamboat was cool. Like it told some story to go forward.
Yeah, and you have to kind of keep in mind that this is a show that happened 39 years ago. You have to always kind of have that in your head. It would be like in the 80s watching something from the 1940s. We like watching a Jim Landis match. It obviously it's not, if you're comparing it to contemporary wrestling, you're going to say, okay, well, it's a little rough around the edges. It's a little, there's some things there that don't really work. And it's a company that is still trying to find itself. They were getting there, and they hadn't really nailed down the formula yet. When you're doing your first one, you don't really know what WrestleMania is. Like they literally, like Vince McMahon wanted to call it the Colossal Tussle. I don't think I think like if we wouldn't be talking about Colossal Tussle 40. So it like so much happenstance. Like Howard Finkel has to come up with WrestleMania. Apparently after they were celebrating after the show, and it's like Bobby Heenan says, "Here's the WrestleMania 2," and Vince is like, "What?" It's like, "Here's the WrestleMania 22," and so it's a great look back to see where they were and how far they've come. Yeah, Ryan Vox is exactly right. It's a good snapshot. It is.
Yeah,
you can see the pageantry, the glitz, the Hollywoodization of it.
You can see what they wanted it to be, and early, and then they worked to getting it there.
Yeah, and then WrestleMania 2, they almost take a step back because they get a little too ambitious. They go way overboard with the celebrities. There's people you won't even know, like Herb. Herb was in, like, I think a Burger King commercial, and he's a celebrity.
WrestleMania 3 tries to be even more ambitious than that one with multiple cities.
WrestleMania 3 delivered.
Which one's the multiple cities?
2.
Oh yeah, that one's bad. That's
WrestleMania 2, in my opinion, is the worst WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And there's a few that are candidates. It's 2, 4, 11, 9, 27. They're usually generally considered like the worst ones. But the actual worst WrestleMania is probably the WrestleMania 2 or WrestleMania 9. But yeah, like Elvira's on commentary, like it's a mess. But yeah, WrestleMania 3, they finally stick the landing. They finally stick the landing on WrestleMania 3, and it's worth a look back. If you've never seen WrestleMania 1, don't go in expecting 2024 level wrestling. Like work rate wasn't a term anybody talked about in the 80s, but people did understand that, like, the WWE style was a little more, it was a little more vanilla. It was a little more kind of basic, and that's what WWE is. WWE is McDonald's wrestling. It's like, is it going to be the best meal you've ever eaten? No, but you know what you're going to get.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. All right. For real quick, before we get out of here, I want to thank you guys who support the channel with some memberships. Real quick, Freak, I will get your intro videos done. I swear to God, I've just been so goddamn busy. But let's thank our tag team champions, Lily and James K, for our tag team memberships. And then we got our mid-carders, James, James M, CJ, DM, Andrea, Adam, Inspector Todd, BR, Stephen S, Devin, the Tribal Chief A, my little brother Austin with that membership, and then Freak Maniac with that world, our one and only world champion as of right now, Freak Maniac. I will get those intro videos done, I swear, and I will do the world champ shout out. So anything over world champ gets you you're in the intro outro videos. Everyone else gets plugs, just like you just got now. The secondary tiers, you find out bookings before anyone else, which will be coming up very soon. So if that's something you're into, I will be, I'm starting to get some interviews locked in for April, and we have some fun ones as well as movie reviews and stuff coming up very soon. A lot more guests coming to that. If you want to be on the podcast, hit me up. I'm done chasing people. I'm sick of getting told, yeah, I got you. And then I go for 8 weeks and then nothing ever happens, or I get left unread. I like what I do. I like the independent scene. But listen, man, when we talk mainstream wrestling and I do those live streams and we talk old school, it does better than the independent scene. And my heart and soul's in the independent scene, but it's hard to keep your heart and soul there when the independent scene doesn't seem to respect you back for your craft. And I'm not trying to pull any punches or ruffle any feathers, but it is what it is. I'm someone for 6 years now, have driven to as many shows as I possibly can, try to be a platform for a lot of people. And when people can't share when they've been on the actual show, or when you're trying to reach out to give them a platform to do so, and they tell you it costs you $40, it's like, I'm good. And I feel like people need to start taking the content creator seriously. Now listen, on the same note, podcasters, get your shit together. When you interview people, know your shit. Get your stuff prepared. Go buy a microphone. Invest in yourself. Don't be sitting here on a gaming headset trying to interview people because they're not going to take you seriously. And then when they don't take you seriously, they don't take people like me seriously. But let's try to find that medium, because I think if these podcasters stop covering independent wrestling, no one else is going to. And then promoters are actually going to have to promote. And God, you don't need that, right? Because then the promoters have to put everything on the wrestlers. It's a whole deal. It's a whole deal. So just accept podcasters and work with us. That's pretty much all I got before I get myself in too much trouble. Make sure you see us on your local shows. BP on 420 will be at PPW. I will be at New Era Pro Wrestling Championship. 5 questions with ABJ. We have a new one drop in Monday. I hate that this is all moved around now. I can't see where I'm at. I don't have the graphic up, but we have new 5 questions out right now with Ralph from the Opinion City and Junie Underwood. Both of them are doing really, really well. Our last episode of Not Cool in High School Horror has like 300 plays, which is bonkers to me. And then I will be at Labor of Love Wednesday and Thursday in Philly. And Saturday I will be at a show in Philly. I can't quite announce everything yet, but your boy will be doing Commentary Mania weekend. My goal has been achieved, and I'm very, very excited about that. And I will tell you this, without giving up too much information, but I'm sure if you look enough on social media, you can put the pieces together. It is the best free wrestling card you're going to see Wrestlemania weekend. I promise you that. It's one of the best cards Wrestlemania weekend independentally, and it's absolutely free, and it's star-studded and celebrity. It's like Mania 1. There's celebrities all over this thing, and I will be hopefully doing commentary. I'm pretty sure I'll be doing commentary for that event, so make sure you tune in. For keep your eye out. If not, maybe you can
be the guest timekeeper.
Yeah, I just ring the bell all day long.
Hey, look around, you didn't even ring the bell.
I know.
There's the guy next to him, like ringing the bell. He had his little like handbell.
Yeah. His little teacup or whatever it was. Yeah. But yeah, so much content coming out. We're gearing up for WrestleMania. We have one more show before WrestleMania, and that'll be the history of Dusty Rhodes. We're going to complete the story, BP. We're going to tell the story, and then hopefully Cody gets to finish that story. But once again, we are 11 subscribers away over on YouTube as well. So if you are watching this on any other platform, shoot over to YouTube, share out the YouTube channel and say, hey, give this guy a couple subscribers, and maybe we can hit 1K before Mania, and that'd be kind of dope. Also on Facebook, we're getting close to 500 or 600 members on the Facebook side of thing. And what's another milestone we're getting close to? That it's pretty exciting. I forget. There's a whole bunch of great stuff happening. We appreciate all of you guys so much for all the continued support. And we'll see you next time on Tornado Tag Podcast. We're out of here, brother.
Thanks for watching this presentation. Like, share, and subscribe for more.